Everybody has heard about Woodstock, and maybe a lot of you were there. This is a song called Woodstock, and has a chorus that goes, we are stardust, we are golden, and we got to get ourselves back to the garden. That's all. We are stardust, we are golden, and we got to get ourselves back to the garden.
Met Ed about 4 days ago, but I have known him for a year and a half on the phone, through email, through his webinars. He reminds me of another wonderful doctor who's been here to visit, Abraham Verghese, for being one of the most compassionate, open, spiritual, yet at the same time brilliant scientists alive today. I know, live up to that.
Kathy, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'd just like to say I love Sun Valley. I think you might know where this is. You guys truly live, when you were mulling in, it was Joni Mitchell singing Back to the Garden, and I think you guys live in kind of a Shambhala, Shangri-La garden. And I think I'm just feel very lucky to have been invited by Kathy here and to get to know some of her friends and really walk amongst you really nice people. So thank you for the welcome. This is something that's been in the media recently with Suzanne Somers. And again, this is not an endorsement. This is just Suzanne Somers, who we know has been a pioneer in bioidentical hormones and is really an open-minded thinker, maybe even a prophet. So not to sell you any product or anything, this is just what she said recently about the thing that Kathy and I and her dog are taking that is mentioned in a chapter in her book. So.
All right, let's talk again about the reverse signs of aging.
Right.
Because now there's this enzyme supplement. What is this?
This is called TA65, and 3 Nobel Prize winners, Elizabeth Blackburn, Carol Greider, and Jacques Zodiac, discovered that in every cell in our body, our 50 trillion cells, we make something called telomerase, but as we age, we lose it. Telomerase is what keeps telomeres. You've heard of telomeres? Sure. Every cell has a tail on it, you know, Suzanne speak again, and every time it replicates, that tail gets shorter, So this regrows telomeres, and people report having better hair, better skin, less wrinkling, more energy, more youthful, and it's my interest in health is all about keeping the insides young, and that's what I'm out there.
TA65. It's called.
TA65.
Okay, you know, just for fun, I brought a little visual aid. These are pictures of me 12 years ago. I'm turning 45 in July, but in these pictures I was 32. There you go. And I was like that since 27, since the stress of my internship. So I went into something called metabolic syndrome, which is inflammation, non-alcoholic fatty liver, obesity, hypertension, low testosterone, depression. And so that's what stress can manifest, even in a young person. And I believe that taking the TA helped me come out of that very, very quickly. And so let's talk about what this is. Just as an audience participation thing, who here has won a lottery, like some kind of event? 1 in 20 million? Excellent. Oh no, like a 1 in 20 million chance. No? Well, technically you all should be raising your hands because we were all once, well, half of us was a little sperm swimming up. And there were 19,999,000 other wannabes. So we all ended up here. So that's kind of a lottery. What's that?
We live here.
We live here. Yep, you live in Sun Valley. That's great. I mean, how lucky is everybody in this room, seriously? And Nancy, who I met this weekend through Marianne, she mentioned this Buddhist doctrine of the preciousness of human birth, which I thought was a neat concept. Imagine in all the oceans in the world, and you're like a little soul, and you've got to come up into a little life raft, and you just happen to come into a little life preserver called your body. I mean, you could have been born an E. coli, or you could have been born you know, something on a comet. I mean, it's pretty good. We're pretty lucky here. Now, many of us were raised in the church. I know there are probably a lot of alternative spiritual people, but who has a belief in the Bible or the Quran or the Tanakh, you know, the Old Testament? Anybody here believe in that? Good. I mean, you don't have to buy all of it, but, you know, some of it. So good. Who believes that Noah actually lived 900 years? Methuselah, 950 something. Yeah. Who believes that literally they lived that long? So not a lot of hands, you know, that's okay. Who here wants to live to be 100 in good health? Pretty much everyone. Yeah, me too. Who thinks that science will allow us to get there? Okay, about 2/3. Yeah, good. Now, who wants to live 1,000 years? 2. Good. I love it. 2. Good. Now, that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, you would think more would be more, but we'll explore why that is later. Some of you may have, anybody buy this back in the day? Okay. So I'm a kind of a wannabe hippie. I was born, baby boom is 46 to 64. It's a palindrome. I was born in 67, but I'm kind of like a wannabe. So sort of like that movie Midnight in Paris. I'm like Owen Wilson. I want to be in an earlier epic. So this was, of course, the Boston Women's Health Collective, and it's a seminal text, no pun intended. Our bodies, ourselves. And it's, of course, women saying, okay, we're sexual people. The pill had been invented. Let's figure out what's really going on with our bodies, our sexuality, and not just trust Big Brother or Mother Superior. And so it's the beginning of a revolution. And I think that we're still part of that revolution as we sit here in trying to reclaim our health. Something interesting, when I looked at the original, it says ourselves. There's a space there. The most recent printings have no space there. So what is the difference between ourselves and ourselves? One of the dictionary definitions is feeling whole and abundant. So like we feel like ourselves today. Okay, that's one definition. Another would be related, but it says that we as a room full of smart, empowered people reserve the right to judge whether this Ed Park is full of hooey. So we judge for ourselves. And then the second way, which I think they kind of implied, was our souls, ourselves. And then somehow they came together over the years. And I just want to remind everybody here, I think this is preaching to the choir, that C.S. Lewis, the famous Christian philosopher, said, you don't have a soul, you are a soul. Right? So can we get an amen on that? You don't have it, you are it. Okay. So having accepted that, amen, we have a body. And the body can be decaying, even if we're doing good things, even if we're into our yoga and eating well and doing all the good things. I'm going to try and convince you today that that decay is not normal and it's totally voluntary. And I believe that I can do that by the end of this talk. So just the small print here is, you know, you talk about a soul. People know about Carl Jung, who thought we all comprise a world soul, right? And that's not a hard concept to grasp. You are your kids, your parents, your neighbors. So we're all kind of in this whole web of souls. And the Hindu, or however you want to call it, they had a concept of Brahman, which is there's the Godhead, the oneness, and we all get little dewdrops of souls into our little bodies. And so that's another way that we perceive it on our scale, I think. And also, we feel that we're traveling through time, right? It's not that time is traveling through us. I mean, they say our molecules aren't the same from 7 years ago. We're always regenerating. But we have a sense of wholeness that is the illusion of our soul, right? It's getting pretty heavy, not mine. But time, you know, may actually not be real. I mean, you can't really describe what is time. It's always dependent on an observation. So there are some people who believe in non-linear time, like it's all just one moment. But once you get all pantheistic, it kind of loses its relevance to us, so we'll just move on. But sorry, that was a major, parenthesis there, yeah. But, you know, let's assume that there is a soul. Let's just accept that as axiomatic. Okay. So this is kind of a visual pun on tipping points. So as we know, people used to think the world was flat. And if you sailed off the edge, you'd be going off the edge. Now, actually, you can do this if you're at a nice hotel in Halekulani or wherever. You can look over on the railing, and you can see if the railing is level, that the world is not flat. There's a curvature, and you could perceive it. And then, you know, the Greeks, they were smart. They did experiments with the shadow and the sun. So people knew it wasn't flat. But that's the problem with received wisdom. When we have received wisdom, we don't question. And it's just another manifestation of automatic thought, which is sometimes good, sometimes not. So on the left, we see this marketing term that was developed a little while ago about the tipping point. So in the left, we have the innovators, hopefully everybody in this room, early adopters, people who like to have the newest iPod or whatever. And then there's this chasm whereby all the lemmings, all the majority and the late majority, everyone comes in. So let's look at resveratrol. This was a breakthrough, intuitively great concept. Drink red wine, get healthy. So then everyone got on board, and we got into this massive tidal wave of common, generalized wisdom, and we spent, tens of millions of dollars proving that, the moon was made of cheese. I mean, resveratrol is a borderline toxin that really doesn't benefit anyone. Maybe some primitive fish might live a month or two longer. So big dud, big disappointment unless you invested in resveratrol. So let's be careful. And everything I say here, you should go home and vet. I mean, I could be lying, but you're going to find so much corroboration of what I'm saying. It's just going to blow your mind. So let's keep in mind that truth passes through ridicule stage, opposition stage. We're actually in a sub-stage, like 1A, which is being ignored. But now with Suzanne Summers, yeah, so we're going to get opposition. And my purpose, my raison d'etre, is to get enough people on this, enough doctors on it, enough wives of senators, enough sister-in-laws of people that work at the FDA, which is really a branch of Bristol Myers Squibb. So get enough people on it. Well, what was that? A toilet gesture? What was I doing? Unintended. Anyway, it is everything in our government, obviously, politically, on my soapbox, is a beltway circle. It's an ecosystem, and we shouldn't be surprised by that. So if you work in the military, you become a military lobbyist. You go into, and it's the same with drug companies. Don't be shocked that that's the case. So what would happen if, let's say I'm right about this, and this stuff makes people younger, what would Pfizer, Bristol Myers, they wouldn't be too happy about it, right? So this is, of course, the emperor and his new clothes. And so as I've been doing these webinars for a year and a half, and I have to learn new things, and it comes back to the same thing every time. All these diseases start to rhyme. And so I really feel like I'm this little kid pointing the finger, saying, this guy's naked, And everyone else is saying, no, aging is this thing that we are with, we're born with. It's either a mandate from God, or it's because of the oxidation, or yada, yada, yada. I want you all to leave all those ideas at the door, just be an empty cup, and just accept that everything I'm saying is true. Trust but verify. So go home, verify, okay? I mean, I say a lot of religious things, and religiosity is a sign of psychosis, so for all you know, I could be totally off my rocker. But anyway, just relax. There's no Kool-Aid in the back. You don't have to. Just relax. And I guarantee you, everyone here who understands English at a good level and is open-minded will be an expert, and you will know so much more about aging than any doctor out there. So my goals of this talk is kind of like this I guess, an early Christian. He's got his little flock here, about to be fed to the lions and the tigers. I don't know if there's any bears. And this is the general public, common knowledge. But fast forward 100 years, this might be a pagan or a Greek priest, and these are all Christians. So let's just keep our minds open to what general, consensus and wisdom is. And that was really the other part of what Nancy said, that the Buddhist doctrine of the preciousness of birth, it's not birth just for the sake of being born, but to become aware. So you all know that. We're here to be happy, okay, but to be aware, to overcome fear, to be aware, to make the world a better place. It's pretty obvious. So 3 things I want to get done with this talk. Teach you all the unified theory. It's simple, it's true, it's generalizable. And present some cases of real patients taking telomerase activators, and prove to you again that aging is voluntary and very unnatural. My credentials you know about, so I'll skip ahead. My father had brain cancer in 2004, and he was like 71. He never was sick a day in his life, so he was really, it was a strange affliction for him. And being a physician himself, he knew the path, and the path was 2 years of worsening quality of life, and eventually I was there when he took his last breath. And for someone that was not very religious, it's tough to come to grips with the demise of your best friend, your body. And it was very painful, especially somebody who used his mind so much. At the end, he couldn't even take care of himself. I mean, so that's depressing. So that kind of rattled my cage and got me into a more awake state. And I decided to research why people get old and die. And in the early years of doing the TA, all my patients seemed to be engineers and CEOs, because People who are DIYers, do-it-yourselfers, they'll look it up and they'll say, okay, here's 12 theories. These 11 look stupid. How about this telomere one? So they all came to me, much like Marianne, who stand up, Marianne. Marianne English. Marianne, just met her this weekend. She's graciously letting me stay at her place. Marianne just found me on the internet because she was like, oh, telomeres, that sounds real. So I'll look it up. She saw my very first webinar 18 months ago, and she turned Kathy on. So that's kind of the whole web and how it connects. So I got shaken up. I decided a doctor was no fun. I'll be a screenwriter, Hollywood screenwriter. So I learned how to write screenplays. I wrote 4 of them. One of them won an award in the Houston Film Festival, and one I made into a book, which I'll introduce to you later. I don't have any signings, but it's a free download. So began this journey of art, and it's all kind of around lifespan, telomerase. That's really what the sci-fi story is about. But it's weird how the art and the life converge at different points. So, of course, we know what this is. This is the Garden of Eden, or it looks like actually Trail Creek Road, doesn't it? Could be. I see animals off leashes here. It's just a wacky place that you live. So this is an interesting moment, a theatrical moment. They just got busted, I think, and Adam's like, whoa, you know, we're in big trouble. We gotta get the HE double hockey stick out of here. And the gal, Eve, is pointing up and saying, wait a second, there's something else here, you know? Let's not get out of here so fast. He didn't set a time limit, right? So let's just wait till Yahweh boots us. And so what was she saying in this picture? I think she was saying what Joni Mitchell was saying, and that we got to get ourselves back to the garden. There's something good in the garden, okay? But then the whole history of the world, whatever, 70,000 years is just a tragedy, partially because of the scarcity of life. And you know, the first tree was the knowledge, the consciousness. The second tree, which many people don't know, was the tree of eternal life. So there was a second tree. So if you don't believe in the Bible and you believe in science, which I think is a totally false dichotomy, this is the phylogenetic tree of life. Oops. So over here we have bacteria, archaea. This whole branch is dead. We got a lot of single-cell organisms, amoebas, slime molds, and then finally these last 3 wonderful plants, animals, and fungi. And this comprises something we call the eukarya. Eukaryotes, sorry, high school biology, boring. Eukarya just means it has a nucleus. And what happened with the invention of the nucleus was about 2.3 billion years ago, the little single-cell bacteria, which are all the same, they can only do the same thing, they got invited into an amoeba and was born the single cell with a bunch of hundreds of little power plants. For people, it's mitochondria. For plants, it's chloroplasts. So there was a symbiotic event. And then what happened was, on the left is a bacteria. It's got a circular genome. It's like, you know, the amount of thinking or memory in a Casio watch from the 70s. But then with the invention of a nucleus, right, we got really big libraries. Like we have 23 pairs of chromosomes, and you can store gigabytes of knowledge. So if you do it by bytes, we have 6 gigabytes of info in every cell. It's totally inefficient, but yet it works because the cells differentiate. They make organs, they make people, they write novels. It's a good thing. So if you look at the left, this is how a simple bacteria would replicate. It would copy, and like 2 soap bubbles, you'd get 2 bacteria. Easy. When you have linear chromosomes, you got caps, and that's a problem. So what happened in the evolution of linear chromosomes, which are, you know, these little bow ties, they're squiggly. It's literally a paperclip. It literally looks like this is the shape that it folds back in on itself. And that's what we came up with. So because of the mechanics, just trust me on this, you can't copy the whole thing. DNA, including the telomere, is just something that you copy onto the other strand. Every time you copy it, you lose 50 to 100 base pairs. It's just true. You can't get the primer to the end. And people knew this. They've known this for 50 years, but they didn't know why some cells could survive. So as the cell, the mother begets 2 cells, it shortens 50. Those 2 daughters make granddaughters, it shortens 100, and so on and so on. So just a little fun with numbers. You were conceived as a fertilized egg with 15,000. By the time you were born, you'd already lost 5,000. You'd already lost a third of your life expectancy. And every year you lose 100, a decade, you lose 1,000 roughly. I mean, it doesn't really work out that way. If you're really stressed out, you'll lose more. If you're healthy, yoga master, you'll lose less or even gain. So this is visually, I know it's overwhelming. There's not going to be a quiz later. Totally, whatever gets in, whatever doesn't, that's fine too. You know, so just lay back and relax. And so we have a firecracker. We have a thing that's shortening every time. So here, if we got mama original DNA, it's like the end of a shoelace, and it's shortening until they become uncapped. This is the actual sequence of a protozoan. It doesn't really matter, and that's the interesting thing. It's so important to have telomeres and telomerase that it doesn't matter what the message is. It's a blank tape at the end of your Ampex cassette. So in some fungi, it's 23 base pairs repeating. In plants, it's 7. Animals, it's just 6. The message is unimportant. It repeats, and it's just the blank tape at the end of the cassette. So 2009, these 3 folks, Blackburn, Grider, and Shostak, found what they were looking for, and it was the telomerase enzyme, and they've been characterizing it ever since. So this is schematically what it would be. It's a little nano machine, and it pumps out more telomere, like a stock ticker tape in the old days. It works like a shot bartender. It doesn't fill the full one. It fills the empty ones first, and there is a mechanism to prune them so they don't get too long. Again, if you want to learn more, go to my podcast number 2. Okay, let me just get a drink here. So this is the Blob. I think there were sequels. Son of the Blob. I don't know which actor is that? No, it's not. Seriously? Oh yeah, it's a young Steve McQueen. Cool. All right, so the reason I bring up the Blob is back in the day before Leonard Hayflick, people thought all cells were immortal, but then they put the cells in a dish and they fed them and they died off after 50 divisions. Because the mothers and the granddaughters and the great-great-great, they shortened and then they died. And that was a guy named Leonard Hayflick. So we could figure that out without even doing an experiment, because let's do a thought experiment. Let's say every cell in your body divides and it's immortal. What would you become in a matter of hours? Become that, and Steve would be poking you with a stick. So obviously, if you're geometrically expanding and immortal, your body would be running out of food. We'd all be these giant blobs within hours. Unsustainable. So the modern version of this, for my generation, Generation X, would be Jabba the Hutt. So he's saying to Han Solo, my P53 ain't so good. Well, so what's P53? P53 is an enzyme which is watching your DNA in every cell, and when the DNA gets damaged, it says, time to go, we die. So this is the prime directive. These guys are Boy Scouts. They know how to kill themselves. So remember the Mission Impossible? Peter Graves. So, you know, at the end it was really cool. This, you know, your mission, the secretary will disavow all knowledge of your, so cool. Anyway, so the tape would always melt and self-destruct at the end. So again, that's what we're talking about. Here is the representation of what Hayflick did. He took a cell, gave it food, 20, 30, 40. Around here, the cells all died. The great-great-great-great-granddaughters died. And because their number of abnormal chromosomes increased, direct cause and effect. So here's a cycle of a cell. There's all these checkpoints, and it says, wait a second, do we still have the right number of chromosomes, 46? Yeah. If we don't, then 999 times out of 1,000 times the watchman, the P53, will say, we're bad, we got to die. And it will die, and that's it, no problem. What happens sometimes in our stem cells, because I believe aging and disease is stem cell disease, is that you get this one pathway here, senescence. So a cell can be damaged, but not have the insight to know that they're bad for the whole body, and will continue to spew out bad stuff and make bad copies and not get out of the way. So it's kind of like a 64-year-old Greek civil servant, you know, just waiting for the pension. It won't leave its job, right? So no offense against the Greeks, cradle of civilization. So here's a representation, and this is an interesting clue. And again, this is more Emperor's New Clothes. People say oxidation is bad, but look what P53 does. The way it kills is by poking holes in the mitochondria. And the mitochondria are little battery packs. They're filled with these oxidative species. It's like acid. So really, the cell is killing itself. It explodes, it releases a cascade of inflammatory mediators. So yeah, you look at dying old cells, there's a lot of inflammation, there's a lot of oxidation, but it's more like the water in the fire mat. It's not the root cause. The root cause, I believe, is the the genes are bad and the cell's trying to die. A concept on the upper right here is just, this is your one sperm and egg, your one 15,000 long telomere. And as you go down in differentiation of cells, because remember, we're not these single bacteria. We're now able to delegate, specialize. We go to trade school, college. So every time you go down in differentiation, you lose a little bit of telomerase activity. You lose the potentiality of being everything, right? Like say you study physics, you're not going to be an Olympic skater. It's kind of like that. So that's how our bodies are organized. So that's an important concept to keep in mind, is that there's differentiation and you lose telomerase activity, you lose potentiality. Here's an easier way to think of it. Look at these telomere lengths. They stay long forever. This is Larry King's sperm, right? Right? So Larry King's kids don't come out like these wizened old men. You can engineer rats to do that, and that's where a lot of the science is taking place. You can engineer rats so that their daughters inherit the age. Granddaughters are older. And there's a concept in mythology of the days of the giants where people were taller and they lived longer. But in actuality, you know, we could be just carriers for our mom's sperm or eggs. You know, these are the precious seeds of what we are, or whatever, the Noah's Ark. So these things have perfect, almost perfect error correction and infinite telomerase activity. On the regular cells, they'll age through time. And if you have one of these premature aging syndromes, you'll go down faster. You'll cross over into disease. Okay. So far, is it all kind of making sense? It's a lot. I know it's overwhelming. Okay, everybody's on this journey. Okay, good. So what's this? A queen bee, right? So the queen bee, it turns out, is a great analogy. The queen bee is a stem cell, and she can live years. All the drones, there's no king bee here. She clones herself. All the drones are her clones. So another thought experiment. Can these bees have a better genetic makeup than the queen? No? No. And can they be any younger than the queen? No, not unless they have telomerase activation. And just take it on faith that they don't. They can't lengthen their telomeres. She can. So in actuality, a honeybee queen will live years. These guys will live months. And that is why we're not blobs. Because most of our cells are not queen bees. Most of our cells are the product of queen bees. They're just differentiated drones. So that's starting to make sense, right? So the idea of a queen in her niche is a queen in her honeybee, right? Or in her hive, I guess you'd call it. And the way that the organs and we're all organized is that they're like these land plots. I think there's probably a lot of real estate developers here in Sun Valley. So here's a new development, lot A, B, C, and D. Okay, and so what happens is these queen bees acquire damage from happenstance, radiation, poison, whatever, but they don't have the wherewithal or the self-awareness to kill themselves so somebody new can move in and be a good neighbor to you. That's what we have. So whether it be 7 or whether it be 1,000, your liver is comprised of niches. So, you know, you don't get cancer everywhere in your liver at once. It happens in one little lot B or lot C or what have you. And most of the time, that little thing is demolished, and another queen comes in. So that's the key to how our organs work. So this is a bee in amber. It could have been in there 1 million years or so. This is literally the way our system is designed. We have these mesenchymal stem cells, these primitive stem cells that are in the cartilage all over. And when we need them, they're defrosted. So they may have been there since you were 5. So how good is your DNA from when you were 5? It's pretty good. So the key is if you can get rid of that bad queen, then something better will come in. And this is why I get asked a lot about stem cell therapy. Stem cell therapy does work. It's expensive. It's been proven in large animals and some people who have the money to travel. But the problem is that you're awash in stem cells. There are these things called mesenchymal stem cells that are everywhere. So it's not a problem of not having enough stem cells. Like Suzanne regrew her breast after cancer by taking out her fat stem cells, purifying them, and putting them back. So she cheated in a way. Like this is the room with chairs. She added more chairs. So she just supercharged that and got a breast back. But in general, organs are an ecosystem unto themselves. So you're going to have 7 lots. You're not going to have 14 or 21 lots. So you got to get rid of the bad ones first. And that's the key to rejuvenation. It's pretty heavy stuff, right? Everybody with me? Okay, it's starting to sound a little true, right? I know. So the keep it simple, stupid principle is in action here. when I read, I open up books, there's so many theories on aging, right? Both from the podium of religion down to the anthropologists who are the worst. I was an anthropology major. We come up with crazy theories like baldness is a competitive advantage, you know. I mean, it's fun to make up stories, but let's just keep it simple. So, have any of you seen this movie, The Name of the Rose? Oh, it's a killer movie for you who haven't seen it. Basically, Sean Connery is playing this fictionalized version of William of Ockham, and he was a monk who thought a lot. And it's called William of Baskerville just because it's a shout out to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. But he gets summoned to this abbey, and then there's murders. They blame spirits. There's an inquisition. Some poor girl is going to get killed because that evil dude from Amadeus, F. Murray Abraham, is the Grand Inquisitor. So he comes in and said, let's not evoke all these demonic possessions. Let's just figure out if there's one reason, like Columbo. And so his whole thing, the real person, the real historical figure, his saying was, pluralitas non est ponenda sine necessitate. So don't come up with a lot of explanations when one will do. And I think that's it's called Occam's razor. So that would be like Wile E. Coyote. He wants to ski. He doesn't take a plane to Sun Valley. He straps an ice make on his back. You know, this is way too complicated. So my theory, which you're all complete acolytes of now, is just that the telomeres shorten. Keep it simple. Okay, does anybody think this is a normal 11-year-old? No. But yet you look at Grammy, and she's 80, and you say that's normal for Grammy. And yet, the process on a biological level is exactly the same. I mean, you look at Lama Master so-and-so, 80 years old. He's old. He lived a good life. I mean, he did good things, still old. So it's not really, as we would like to believe in our souls and hearts, and this illusion that it's something we do, it's something we're endowed. It's just aging. It's just damage to the genes. And so this is a kid who's 11 who has bad genes. And if you look at this chart that I composed about aging, well, I adapted it, but I made the pretty circles. Below here is telomeres are not shortened. So these are DNA transcription errors. Again, it's a failure to copy the DNA right. Above here, the telomeres are shortened. And the blue ones, these three syndromes of premature aging, are having to do with the enzyme that unwraps and wraps DNA. The ones here in the middle in red are DNA repair genes, because there are mechanisms to repair. And then there's one, the yellow one is making a nice nucleus so you can manipulate the DNA. And this is technically, you're not going to be asked about this, but the point is the green one is the model that we see here, dyskeratosis congenita. So what is that? This is a failure of the telomerase function, okay? There's many forms of it, but it boils down to the fact that your stem cells can't do what they need to do in some way. So here, this is really, if you're only awake for one thing, it'll be this, please. This is the four things that this is it right here. Basically, I've already hopefully convinced you that the chromosomes shorten from copying. If they get too short, they get sticky. It's recognized as DNA damage, right? Like something that needs to be reconnected. So what connects the ends of two chromosomes? So think of it like these. This is a double chromosome, actual double chromosome. They should be single bow ties like this. So it's like the trapeze artists who are crazy glued. If you crazy glue their hands and you pull them apart, which is what happened with cell division, they might come apart at the shoulders. They might both go together and leave nothing on this side. That's what's happening here. And so this is an actual metaphase bridge. This is a mom becoming two daughters. And so all 46 line up and they're separated. If the hands are crazy glued, you get this. You get the yellow has crossed over. These are chromosomes 1 through 23, X and Y. And look at the chromosome 1 has crossed over to chromosome 4. And there's all kinds of crazy mix-ups here. There's no 20 anymore. 20 got stuck somewhere else, maybe here. You know, 18 crossed over to 5. It's infinite the number of ways you can screw up, but luckily it's a non-issue because this happens trillions of times, and the cells, P53, will say, we're wrong, we need to die, and it'll die, no big deal. But every once in a while, somebody will say, I don't want to die, I want to hang out and cause trouble. So this is not bad, this is good. Okay, so what's a theory? A theory is a bunch of axioms and a hypothesis. And so this is my theory, and I know it's a lot of letters, but you've already been convinced, hopefully, of all of these things, okay? So the first one, axiom, something we hold true because it is true, is that because of the mechanics of DNA copying, the telomeres will go shorter. Great. Number 2, stem cells and cancer cells, which are probably mutant stem cells. They're probably not regular cells. They're probably like from the planet Krypton. They're superheroes like Clark Kent, but they've gone bad. So that's a new paradigm in the last dozen years, that cancer is not a disease of regular cells, but it's a disease of already superhero stem cells. These can self-immortalize by lengthening their telomeres with telomerase. A corollary of that is that the length is dynamic. You go and meditate with the Lama, you lengthen your telomeres. You go and have, a bender in Vegas, you shorten your telomeres, So that's something we all get and appreciate. Axiom 3 is that, I think I touched on it before, the drones, the differentiated cells from the queen, can't be any younger or better or healthier than their most recent queen. Okay? They don't just go to the library and look up what their genes are supposed to look like. All they can be is copied from their most recent stem cell. And a corollary of that is that since the T cells, which are our adaptive immune system, are all stem-like in nature, they start to wane as we get older, leading to higher rates of infection and cancer. And then lastly, non-stem cells, just the run-of-the-mill Jimmy Olsen non-Clark Kent cells, they don't have telomerase. So when they go bad, when they go nuts, no one cares because they'll be dead within 30, 40 divisions. So that teleologically, and teleologically is a term meaning you argue backwards. It's like saying, well, my kids have thumbs so they can play Nintendo, right? So you argue backwards and you say, well, that's the reason why we're protected from rogue cell lines, from oxidation, from poison, from DNA errors, because, again, it's only the queens that matter. The drones don't matter because we're not turning into blobs. Those are all throwaways. So the final hypothesis, this is my stem cell theory of aging, based on 4 undeniable truths, just obvious axioms, is that aging is caused by shortening of telomeres in the stem cells. Okay, repeat, aging is caused by the shortening of telomeres in the stem cells. If the stem cells' telomeres can be protected by telomerase activation, then the effects of aging will be slowed. And when telomerase activation somehow allows for stem cell death, or that p53, or that apoptosis, or that Greek lady finally taking her pension and going away, then aging can be reversed. And so we need to replace those niches with younger versions from the bees. Okay, I'm going to take a deep breath here. How are we doing on time? Okay. I want to save time for questions because I know there are probably some good ones out there. This is Hieronymus Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delights. So let's shift to the human scale. Everyone's sitting here. Fears and fantasies. This is the Western version of reality. Born in original sin, living our lives, having a good time while we can, and end up in this really dark place where demons torture us, right? Not the cheeriest, and not shared by different other world religions. It's kind of a gloomy way to look at things, but it's always amazed me how people are very literal and figurative about things. Like nobody really raised their hand and they said Methuselah lived 954 years. It's not too it's metaphorical. But yet, some people will hold that the earth literally was created in 6 days. It's pretty common if you look at religious Orthodox fundamentalists. And some people will do the begetting game, and they'll go, oh, Saul begat, Japheth or whatever, and they'll say, the world is 70,000 years old or whatever. And we know there's dinosaurs. We're not going to deny that. So hence, we must have been walking with the dinosaurs, right? So again, people pick and choose from what reality they want, and they pick and choose from evolution, science, religion. It's very arbitrary, but it's very human scale based. In this one, the doozy of them all, the flood mythology, right? God reset the counter. He said people were evil upon the earth, and let's not let people live 900 and something years. Let's reset it to 72. People don't literally think this is true. I don't think. They don't think there was 2 by 2 by 2 and an ark and a flood. I mean, some people spend their lives looking for Mount Ararat and all that, but people think it's highly metaphorical, right? And yet, I'm here to tell you that science and the Bible totally on the same page. Textually, subtextually, literally, total agreement. So this is from Psalm 90:10, and it says, the days of our years, this is the King James Version, the days of our years, in them are 70 years, and if by reason of might, 80 years, but their enlargement, getting those extra 10 years, hard work and kind of pointless, labor and vanity, for it hath been cut off hastily, and we fly away. And that's true. We're pushing the envelope farther, but people just don't live that long. And the maximum lifespan, which is also the title of my sci-fi graphic novel, which you can buy at Barnes & Noble, is 120. And that's shown here in the Bible. This is an old document, people. It says here in Genesis, my spirit, the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he is also flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. It's right there, 120. And so 2 weeks ago, I was at an aging conference with the leading expert in supercentenarians, that's 110. People who make it to 110. Here's the lifespan. It just shows that, oh, this is interesting. Back in the day, Paleo day, the median lifespan, half people were dead at 70 and half, after. At the turn of the 19th or 20th century, it was 45. Now it's maybe around 80. People aren't surprised when you're, 80. Half are going to be half above and below. But you can't really get that far over on the wave. And the absolute wall is 120. And so I was talking to Steve Coles, professor at UCLA, and number 19 is a patient of ours, 18, Soledad Mejia. She's 112, and we'll hear from her later. But he said that when he started as a pup 30 years ago, he really thought that this list would change. It wouldn't be 70 people. It would be 80, 100, 120. And to his surprise, over the last 3 decades of studying this, the list is the same. It's always 70 people in the world. Nobody gets past 120. There's one person who went to 122 or something, but who knows? Maybe they lied on their birth certificate. That's the limit. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. I'm going to hasten through this. So the point is, it's musical chairs. You got to put more chairs in the room. It doesn't matter. Someone's got to be the last person alive. That's all. It's just a number. So the hidden error, the reason why everyone didn't raise their hand is because we think it's wrong to want more life. And this is from Genesis. He said, man must not be allowed to reach out and take from the tree of life. And this is the internal reality. This is the thermodynamics of our lives. This is, believe it or not, however great and spiritual we think we are, we think we don't deserve, like these 2 folks here, to live 1,000. Look at Twilight Zone. Look at Burgess Meredith. He wanted something. He got the ironic comeuppance. So that is the reason. The narrative is that, yeah, there's something wrong with me. I don't deserve to live this long. God's going to punish me. And so that's really, you got to examine whether that's true. The old economy is that, oh, here's a guy running up a escalator. And this is a good metaphor. Both on the cellular level, your telomeres get longer and shorter, but lifestyle-wise, if you do good things, that's a telomerase activator. And that was shown by Blackburn. She taught men to meditate, to eat well, to sleep well, to exercise. Telomerase activity went way up. So all the good things that you do are mediating through telomerase. Or you can pop a pill. And that sounds morally repugnant, but that's just the truth. If you look at my picture, didn't change my diet or exercise. I can eat whatever I want. Cannot possibly gain weight. Okay, that's not a lifestyle karma thing. That's a cellular thing. So Jack LaLanne died because he ran out of immune cells. And even though he thought he was Jack LaLanne, when he got that cold, there wasn't enough T cells to survive. I'm going to finish soon, but everyone remembers Gilda, who left early. And she said, her character said, if it's not one thing, it's another. And that's true. And I call that the Redenbacher effect, or the Redenbacher syndrome, because we're going along, and even if people who take the TA65 say, well, I want to live 80, but I want to be totally healthy until I die. And indeed, that's what happens. You all know people who are totally healthy until they're not. And it's like microwave popcorn. You wait 2 minutes, nothing happens, all of a sudden, everything goes. So that's why I call it the Redenbacher syndrome, because when people get sick, they really get sick. Should I go on? Okay. Okay, thanks. So I'm just going to skip over these slides. And this is all in my podcast if you're more interested. I want to just touch on a few interesting anecdotes. One is sleep. When you take what I take, the sleep improves. And that is the way I know you're absorbing it. If you want to talk to me later, we can maybe get you started. But basically, I know it's working because your dreams become qualitatively different. They go from a Roger Corman B film to like a Steven Spielberg production. And that's like 90% of people. There's really a different quality. It's only because the brain cells copy faster. Also, there are things with your temperature, your circadian rhythm, and you get these brief awakenings. But let's listen to a gal who is Ambien addicted, as so many people are. So before I mentioned to you that the dreams might start drawing from different things you haven't thought of for a while. Is that what you found happening? Or?
Yes, definitely. I'm dreaming about my mother, dreaming about clients that I had 15 years ago.
It's very vivid though, isn't it?
Like you're in it.
Yeah.
But I didn't dream that much before.
Yeah. It's huge. Now you've been on Ambien and it was kind of disruptive to your sleep for a year now.
Over a year.
And you were worried about going cold turkey, but you managed to do that?
About maybe a week ago. I haven't taken an Ambien
Beautiful.
since.
Now have you tried to not take it before and had problems?
Never. Yes, I could not. I'd be lying in bed just.
Okay, so that's pretty classic. And here's another thing that we won't really go into, but you just get a peace of mind and unbelievable clarity, and it's because the sleep is so much more restorative, so it really helps with addictions and depression. Just skip over that. Here's a guy who will talk about how he just totally tweaked his shoulder, like on a bike ride, he just fell off, and the next day he was fine. And so athletes who go hard, who tear up stuff, they often find their performance and their repairs really different.
My fall, I went to the urgent care to have it checked out, and they x-rayed it, and they said, you know, no broken bones, no separation. And the next day, it was fine, and I actually played golf at Shady Canyon, believe it or not.
Oh my God, how funny.
Sunday, yeah.
With Joe?
With Joe.
Here's the lady with, she's 112 Soledad. She basically only took 3 days worth, 112, and she sprouted like a chia pet, like 300 jet black hairs. It was the freakiest thing. So you're never too late to get some apoptosis. But the granddaughter, maternally, your mom is Armida.
Yes.
And your mom's mom is?
Soledad.
Right.
Yes.
So we gave her the TA for like a week or a couple days.
I'm not sure for how long, but my mom did notice, and if you go and stand over there, you're gonna see she has some strands that are black. She started getting black hair.
Like the here, the roots, not so much the ends. The ends are still
but
kind
some
of white.
strands were black.
So she's had white hair for many years then?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
years. And all of a sudden, I walked in one day and she's eating dinner, and I looked at her and I could see little black spots.
So you noticed it too, Luis?
I noticed it right away.
Really? Let's go check it out.
No, you can see it from my
But I was
You can
told-
actually see it from here.
I was told that her ulcer went away.
Look at the strands. Look at the strands.
Oh, yeah, mira.
It's all white, and you can see a little bit of black.
Oh, you're right. Oh, my God. Look at that. Está saliendo pelito negro. Yeah, chido. Look at all this. One complication, Kathy said there's no complications. There are some in that people's blood pressure gets too low. So they keep their old meds, and then they stand up, they get dizzy. So, but that's a good thing to need less meds. Same with diabetes in some cases. Also, the voice timbre changes. You get more lung capacity. Sex function, really good for men and even good for women. I've had 63-year-old people start menstruating. 42-year-old people get pregnant out of the blue. I mean, this is all snake oil stuff. I know, just you don't have to believe, just watch the webinars. Cancer is a big thing because people were worried about cancer. I just want to draw attention to this model I kind of came up with. If you look here, like, you can't really see it that well, but everyone thinks of cancer above the ground. You do surgery, you do radiation, and then chemo is like a neutron bomb at 10,000 feet. That's very globally destructive to all your cells. So if you're lucky and you get cancer, best to cut it out, then maybe. But nobody thinks about what's below the ground. So where does cancer come from? I think you might understand it. It comes from protecting the telomeres now. And above that, the P53, so again, this guy made his Volvo last 2.6 million miles. He just protected his car parts. He replaced them. That's your friend, your body. Okay? The P53 is like the tape that's self-destructing. These are the stem cells killing themselves. And then on the top is a riot police situation. And then we got the natural killers. So there are all these levels of preventing cancer. Cancer is actually a very hard thing to create, hard thing to maintain, very easy to kill. And that's a paradigm shift for a lot of people. This would be me, 33, and now, long story short, my telomeres are really long. I mean, I have the telomeres of a 3-year-old. They used to be 8,400, now they're 9,800. So far, you know, no tail, no antennae, I don't think. And the more important measure now that we have available to us is the percentage of damaged telomeres. So as you go, this is a very reliable indicator. The shorter the telomeres, less than 3,000 base pairs, the worse off you are. So mine measure like an 18-year-old now. I have only less than 10%. So I think, you know, instead of the emperor, it's more like Lady Godiva. Godiva is Middle English for gift of God. So I'm just the guy with the window open right now, but there's going to be plenty of people. People here now understand that the truth is in plain sight. I mean, there's 15,000 articles showing that telomere erosion is at the root cause of every disease. So people just need to say, oh yeah, naked girl, that's it. And I think there's only one process going on. I mean, with exception, at the middle we have replicative senescence in all cells, DNA damage in all cells. Cells kill each other, but on the organ level is where we start to understand disease. In the arteries, it's high blood pressure, atherosclerosis. In the brain, maybe it's Alzheimer's. But it's the same thing in every disease process. And it's not normal, and it's totally voluntary. So in the old days, we were on the HMS Titanic, and it didn't matter if you were on the posh side or, you know, I love that song. We are no longer in Desolation Row. Everyone knows that Bob Dylan song, right? T.S. Eliot, and which side are you on? Anyway, we were on the Titanic until this afternoon. Everybody was going to die, rich, poor. Guess what? The ship just turned around. We're going to warmer waters. And you know, whether you believe it or not, this tipping point is coming. And now, so that becomes a social issue. Do some people deserve to live that long? Can everyone live that long? Because this is real. This is going to happen. So it really doesn't matter what side you're on now. We're not going to hit that iceberg. The body can be sustained. And that's the good news I have for you today. There's a gospel. There's good news. It works. And I'm going to write a book called Telomere Time Bombs. And it's going to talk about all these 40-something podcasts and the real people and the real experiences. This is from my graphic novel, My Midlife Crisis I Had. And I wrote a screenplay. So he's just saying, hey, Methuselah, they're having a public debate whether we should tweak the DNA and make people live longer. And so this guy, this wise guy says, hey, God's saying we should walk in the garden with him. And the cardinal says, that was spoken like a scientist. Don't tempt him, sir, because God can change his mind. Or have you forgotten the flood? And he retorts by saying, in another generation, that discussion will seem as irrelevant as whether the earth is flat or whether the sun goes around it. And those are issues on which the church has modified its infallibility. So again, this quote is the most relevant. I don't want to achieve immortality through my work. I want to achieve it through not dying. And this is the opening line of my graphic novel. So we have some nice symbols here. A rainbow, a new promise not to destroy mankind, a dove, hope, and some water and a rescue time. So go to my iTunes and download Maximum Lifespan. It's totally free. You can download in 10 languages. And so that's just my goal. My goal is to prove to you. So who understands that plants and animals all require telomerase? Just raise your hand. Everybody convinced? Okay, go home and check it out, because I could be wrong. If there was a safe way to keep it active, would you do it? Safe, no cancer. Some people, good, 40%. If you were in perfect health, who besides these two people would want to live 1,000 years? Perfect health. So that's good. That's like 20 people, not bad. So the bottom line is stem cell repair is real. And the only real question is if you live 900 years or 70 years, when would you have your midlife crisis? I mean, probably you'd have it at 939, right? So how much time do you need? It's the quality. So if you can't afford this, if you're going to get hit by a truck in 2 days, there's no time like the present, because that's the only one we can experience. So, you know, if you want to learn to paint, learn to paint. Don't wait. You know, it doesn't matter if you buy this, and the moment is now. That's the present. So this is the final thing. Instead of lions eating us, we have lions. Remember that nice born free as the. So this is better than original sin in my place. This is a better replacement narrative. And here's Prometheus getting punished for bringing man a technology of fire. But here's a Prometheus tree, and this is a single organism living 5,000 years. So again, if you want to take on the burden of original sin and not deserve to live longer, that's fine too. But I think life is inherently abundant. We're lucky to have landed in that little life preserver, and we should make the most of it. So this is my last shout out to you guys, the boomers. I really appreciate what you did for us. There was the Free Speech Congress on Racial Equality. So that was Jack Weinberg. And he said, don't trust anyone. We have a saying, don't trust anyone over 30. Who in this room is over 30? All right, so you've become your enemy. You're the man, okay? You're the establishment. And so don't trust yourself. When you hear that voice saying, you know, these hippies with the Occupy Wall Street, and you know, I was young. Trust your inner voice that aspires to higher things. And this is one of those things. You should want to live longer in good health because you're all repositories of great life experience and wisdom. Another movement was free love. So we got the hair, the sexual liberation, Age of Aquarius. Woodstock came. Again, another rainbow. And that was more about the Dionysian, the mysticism, the hedonism. And then we have Carole King, who I understand lives in this community. And this is more about the personal truth, the empowerment. So you guys are on an amazing journey. I know they say the greatest generation was Tom Brokaw's, but I really tip my hat to your generation, who in such a short time changed everything on this planet and continues to change it. So here are the podcasts I do. Again, Lyme disease, all these things, colds and flus. Here is a YouTube video. That's me and Suzanne at her book launch. And so there is a chapter on TA in her new book, Bombshell. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
You know, I know we are so pressed.